This is the brand new electric Porsche Macan. And because this one is the top spec turbo model, this one has 639 brake horsepower. Hello, welcome back to the interface. My name's Alex, and today we're going to have a first look at the brand new Porsche Macan Electric. The new Macan Electric is the second pure EV model from the company, and this brand new version is going to be EV only. Going forward, however, the existing combustion version of the Macan is still going to be sold alongside this EV version, although not as heavily promoted. Let's have a little quick tour of the front design of the new Macan Electric, and my word, is this one handsome looking car. They've really refined the look of the Macan over the years, and we've got a bit of the Taycan in the design language here too. So gone are the quite bulbous 911 style headlights, got these new slits which are very similar to the Taycan. Interestingly, this section here is where the DRLs are located, and then the main beams for the car are all in this big section down here. Similar design language to the old Macan too. And obviously this one being the turbo version, we have got a lot of extra design scoops and different spoilers and things. So down here, this splitter looks very impressive, and there's lots of different vents and things down there too. Now, because the Macan is a bespoke electric vehicle, we have actually got a really decent amount of space underneath the bonnet here. We can press the key and that opens up in a very dramatic way. Looks quite impressive. And in here there is 84 litres of space, which is really, really good. Not a token gesture by any means. We've got enough space for your Type 2 charging cable, the granny charger if you did have one for it. We've got access to the battery, like the 12-volt battery, warning triangles, cubbies and things, and also the screen wash over there too. Really, really good amount of space, and this bonnet here closes quite nicely too. The new Macan, as mentioned, is only going to be an EV, with prices starting at £68,500 in the UK for the base model. There is also the Macan 4 at £71,200, the 4S at £76,900, and at the very top of the lineup is the model we have in this video, the Macan Turbo. This has the most performance out of all the models available and costs £96,900. However, the one you see in this video actually costs a staggering £108,079, as it has quite a few options. Around the back, the design is very, very Porsche Macan. They've obviously kept the DNA of the design from the outgoing model. Now, around here, very clean design. This spoiler is protruding at the moment. On the software in the infotainment, you can choose whether or not to have the spoiler extending or not, and you can have it up all the time if you want to. It makes it look quite sporty. We have also got the Porsche brand spelled out in letters here, rear-facing camera, turbo badging, and everywhere else it's very clean design. They've done a really nice job with it. This big rear window here is all tinted as well, and you'll notice that the rear wiper is missing on this model. And if you're used to the Porsche Macan, the button to open the boot is usually on the same section as the rear wiper. However, what Porsche have done this time is they've located the button just here. Rear boot space in the Macan Electric is actually one of its main highlights. You might think that because this is now an EV that they've ruined the amount of space you might have back here, but no, we've actually got 480 litres of space back here, and if you fold these seats down, that extends to 1,288. And then folding those rear seats down is really easy. You pull these handles here, and they go down one by one, fairly easily. One party piece is the rear air suspension. I've actually got some buttons here, and I can make the car go down and up. Underneath this false floor, there is a tiny bit of storage. However, on this turbo model, we do have a Bose subwoofer. If you want this removed, you will have to go for other trim levels. One thing that I noticed is that the Porsche Macan has two charging sockets. On one side is a CCS2 combo port, and on the other side is a standard AC Type 2 charging socket. I didn't test if both sockets support AC though. For quite a swoopy roofline, the new Macan Electric has a decent amount of headroom and legroom. For rear passengers, there's also two air vents, a phone holder and two USB ports. There is also a central armrest with two decent sized cup holders, but no load through hatch. The rear armrest itself does require quite a slam to get it to shut. For the interior of the new electric Macan, you can really sense the level of quality and attention to detail that the company has gone for. Pretty much every surface of the interior is either covered in leather or metal. So we've got leather all on the dash here, got Alcantara on the side, Alcantara on the ceiling, bits of plastic on here, but not too bad. We've got metal down here, and these touch capacitive buttons look quite fancy, and leather all on the doors, and this nice small leather steering wheel. This steering wheel is really, really nice to use. Now, what Porsche has managed to do is retain a level of simplicity in terms of the design, but also a level of physical control for things that need it. So down here, we have got this very fancy looking screen system, but it's not actually screens. It's physical buttons mixed with haptic buttons and a knob for the volume. All in one unit down here. Really, really good. So down here we have got the controls for the climate system, and you can set the fan speed for either the passenger or the driver. Really, really good. All really responsive. And these buttons down here for the heated seats and the recirculation is all one big button. It's incredibly easy to use and really, really tactile. Much, much better than some other physical button haptic systems I've seen. And this section up here is all controlled from these little buttons here. So adjusting the temperature, adjusting the fan speed is all controlled with actual physical buttons. So really, really good job there. For the gear selector, it's all on the dashboard here. So we've got a button for park, and the gear selector itself is a little sticky out piece that is quite easy to use. I've got the sense that when they designed this vehicle, they wanted it to be very practical, and I can definitely attest to that. Now, obviously, being a modern electric vehicle in 2024, Porsche has added some level of technology and screens, which is good. Now, this one is the top-spec turbo, but it doesn't have the option for the passenger screen, which I don't think you really need. Passengers can watch Netflix if they want to, and it will have a clever filter, so you as the driver can't see what they're seeing, which obviously would be distracting. I don't think that's needed, and I'm glad this demo car doesn't have that on it either. Now, we have got a relatively small, in terms of other vehicles, infotainment screen. It's really, really crisp and really easy to use. The entire OS is based on Android, and it's really, really slick. So you can probably see here, it's very, very responsive. And we've got wireless Apple CarPlay support, we've got Android Auto, there's Google Maps on here, we've got lots of different options, and it is really, really simple to use. Now, if you want a full in-depth guide on this infotainment screen, click on the link on the top right corner for my video that goes over this infotainment screen in depth. But overall, I'm really happy with this infotainment screen. It's really responsive, really crisp, lots of cool features, and it really works quite well. Now, I will go over more of the features in depth in my infotainment guide, but there is also an app store on here. You can download various apps, such as charging apps, Spotify, and various things. On your right-hand side here is the power button for the vehicle, which is nice. And then down here, there are some light controls and lots of physical buttons for the windows and all the mirrors and various things. And then also, we have got three settings for driver profiles and that sort of good stuff. Up here is the typical Porsche design clock. We have got seconds there and tells you what the time is. And there is also on the screen here a stopwatch if you want to do 0 to 60s or lap times, whatever. And then in this nicely designed center section down here, we have got cup holders, which are really nice and grippy, so it holds your Starbucks pretty well. And then hidden away underneath here are, if I can just about see them, 2 USB-C ports and a 12-volt socket too. And then underneath this little tray here is a wireless phone charging pad. And if your phone doesn't support wireless charging, you can feed a USB-C cable through this hole here, and then you can even clip it in place when you're not using your phone. Save you having to have cables dangling all over the place, which is a nice, thoughtful touch. Now, finally, the highlight of the interior is got to be the seats for me. They are super comfy. They've got a half sporty feeling and half comfy feeling to them, so they are bolstered and are quite sporty in a design, but they are nice and slim, so back seat room isn't compromised that much, but they are really soft and comfy, and on a long journey I can imagine these being really, really nice. So, driving the new Porsche Macan Electric, what are my first driving impressions? Well, one thing I really like is how low down you sit. Obviously the Macan is an SUV and you sit, well, the vehicle is quite a high up vehicle, but the driving position, everything is all geared towards you sitting low down. So I'm not a very tall man, and probably on camera I look like I'm too low down to be driving, but I can see everything perfectly clearly. Everything is where it should be, and it's almost like they've designed this to be a very sporty feeling vehicle, and it really does. So I really, really like that you sit nice and low down in the vehicle, and these seats, as I mentioned earlier, are really nice and soft and very supportive, especially going around corners. Now, one of the option extras on this vehicle that stands out the most to me is the rear wheel steering system. It makes the car feel more darty and more precise and more agile. So you can see on here, I'm not really adjusting the steering wheel that much, but the car's moving all over the place. It's really, really good, and the steering's really direct, really snappy. You can see it's really, really, like, it's very responsive. I'm not sure if all other Porsches are like that, but it feels really, really good. Now, the other thing that helps make this car feel really darty, agile and sporty is the size of the steering wheel. Now, this one has a really nice small steering wheel, not too small and it's not too big either, and the rim on it is really nice and slim too, and it makes it feel really, really, it makes the car feel quite tight and quite small, which is really good. Now, what's crazy is this one is the Macan Turbo, and it has the most performance out of all the Macan electric models. Now it actually has 639 brake horsepower available when using the launch control system. Now the Macan actually has 4 different driving modes. We have normal, Sport Plus, Sport and Off-Road mode, and all of them will make the car feel a bit different to drive. Now to adjust them and select them, there's no diving into an infotainment screen and getting distracted. It's all conveniently located via a toggle switch on the steering wheel here. Now what we do is we can adjust them. I'm in normal mode, I've been driving around sort of calm in that mode today. And we also do have Sport and then Sport Plus. I'm going to pop the car in Sport Plus and see what it's like to accelerate. The Sport Plus mode also makes the car sound different too. Much like the Ioniq 5N, we do have some fake sounds. Well, while the Ioniq 5N has engine sounds you can choose from, this one has got more synthesized and electronic sounding noises. Let me know what you think to those in the comments. But the performance on the new Macan is incredible. It is incredibly fast, incredibly responsive, incredibly good to handle as well, and it feels incredibly darty and just really, really agile. For such a big and heavy electric SUV, the electric Porsche Macan performs and handles incredibly well. It boggles the mind how well this handles. It's just incredibly impressive. Now when you get behind the wheel of the Macan, it does feel like it has a rear-wheel drive bias. And while this one, the Macan Turbo, is four-wheel drive, that rear-wheel drive bias makes sense. Now obviously Porsche and Audi are under the same VW Group umbrella, and they have been sharing platforms and parts and different things. Something like the Taycan is obviously the e-tron GT, and those are very similar vehicles. The Macan is very similar to the new Q6 from Audi as well. And while the Q6 has the rear motor in front of the rear axle, this one with the Porsche, the rear motor is actually hanging over the back of the rear axle, and that gives it a rear-wheel drive feel. Now this obviously is four-wheel drive, as I said, but there is also a rear-wheel drive model of the Macan, and that is a lot cheaper than this one, and that might be the one to go for. Definitely go and test drive them if you are on the market for the new electric Macan. You notice the rear-wheel drive bias when you chuck it into some roundabouts and round corners. Porsche have definitely intentionally made this feel quite fun to drive. They've obviously gone head first into the electric revolution, but they don't want to alienate a lot of their core audience. And making the car feel playful and fun to drive is one of the key components of a Porsche, and I'm happy to say they have kept that feel. Now one thing Porsche has done to make you feel more involved in the driving experience and more at one with the machine is they've actually removed the one pedal driving system. It doesn't exist on this car. There is regen braking, a very little amount, so if you let off the brake pedal it does sort of coast and you are allowing some energy back into the batteries. But the regen is accessible from the brake pedal, much like a normal 911 or normal combustion car that's automatic. The braking is done with the brake pedal, which, when I'm saying that out loud, sounds stupid, but I'm so used to electric vehicles, and I'm sure a lot of people are too, where you have proper one pedal driving. Something like the cars from Hyundai and Genesis and Kia, those have really nice one pedal driving systems. However, the target market for the Macan is probably going to be people that like to drive hard and fast, and are might be used to a 911. And it's nice to see them give back some control to those people, but it would have been nice to have an option in the system at least, maybe off by default, that will give you one pedal driving if you are used to it. And that would also help with the efficiency of this vehicle. And that's what I'm going to get into next. Now, the expected range on this particular car is around 240 miles from a full charge. And it's been getting 2.1 miles per kilowatt hour since I set off this morning. And I've done 50 minutes of driving and 21.3 miles. Officially, this should get over 3 miles per kilowatt hour. Now, what I'm assuming is that this car has learnt what other people driving it have been doing, and because this is a press car and reviewed by all sorts of people, it might not have been driven that carefully and with efficiency in mind. After all, this is a Porsche. But I'd imagine if driven carefully, this should get around 3 miles per kilowatt hour, which for what this car is, isn't too bad really. Now, comfort-wise, this isn't going to be the most comfortable SUV to drive. This is geared towards more sporty driving and potentially track work and different things like that. But driving it around here and some not the best roads is fine. It's really good. Obviously the ride gets a bit more jiggly when you put it into sport mode, it gets a bit more hard, but in normal mode This feels very, very comfy. I can imagine a long journey being very, very easy in this sort of car. It'd be absolutely fine. Now, once you get the Macan Electric out on the open road, you can sort of sense the amount of work and effort that's gone into this car to make it handle as well as other Porsche models. I'm gonna knock into Sport Plus here and have a quick bit of fun. So you just, the whole thing was struggling for grip there. It's so playful around the corners, it just shoots you out of the other end of it. Incredibly good. And that fake noise as well, aiding to the involvement. Yeah, a bit of slip there as well. Steering's light, it corners really well. There's a bit of back end play. Oh, gives you a bit of slip out the corner and it's not going to shoot you into a tree. Roundabout. Oh, yes. How good is that? Really good. It's no easy task to make a compelling performance electric SUV, and what Porsche have pulled off with the new Macan Electric is commendable. It would have been very easy to make a really powerful electric Macan and just replace the engine with electric motors. But what the company has done is reimagine what the Macan could be in the electric age. And they've gone down the same line as what Hyundai have done with the Ioniq 5N. They've put some petrol head soul and character into the vehicle, and it's really apparent from behind the wheel. Obviously, this is just my first impressions, but from what I can tell from driving this car so far, it's done a really, really good job. So I, for one, are looking forward to the electric future in where cars like this can exist, and really fun performance cars that are also electric can also exist too. And what a future that would be. If you've enjoyed this type of video, please consider subscribing to the Interface Cars. My name's Alex, and I'll see you again next time.